Thank you all for sharing in that beautiful ritual, and for those of you who did not come forward, thank you for witnessing and for being with us as we shared that moment together. So, as you heard earlier, today is a day when we're going to kick off a wonderful effort, journey to identify and to talk about and identify a shared purpose for a shared mission for our congregation. What we're asking all of you to do, and I'll give this announcement again before the service ends, is to join us in the social hall and to please sign up for a cottage conversation. Those conversations will be beginning in mid-February and will take place and will run through roughly the middle of March. And we need everybody, and you'll hear me say that in a few minutes again, because I'll keep repeating it and repeating it. I want everybody in this room to sign up. I don't care if you've been a member here for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, or if you've just recently come through the doors. We want everybody to be part of these conversations. And rather than me preaching a full sermon to you today, I decided to invite two of our leaders to share with you their thoughts about some of the questions that you will be asked when you participate in these conversations. What does this congregation mean to you? What do you see as the reason we exist? Why are we here? What is our purpose? And so on. So I'm very delighted to invite Pam McIntire and Chris Little to share with you some of their thoughts, and then I'll share a few with you after they are done. So why don't we begin with Pam? Pam, come on up.
Did that? Okay. All right, good. So I'm Pam McIntire. I'm the president of the board this year. And I'm so glad our congregation is embarking on this journey to unite in our understanding of a shared purpose. As you know, the whole UU Cville community is invited to share answers to the questions about our purpose. Today, I'm going to start with answering one of the questions. What does this congregation mean to you? Many years ago, I was sitting in this sanctuary when a woman came up and spoke. Her son was in prison, and she hadn't been able to touch him in a really long time. She explained that when her son came to court for a hearing, she went up afterwards, hoping to be able to hug him. And the guard told her no one is allowed to touch the prisoner. And then here's the important part. He then looked at her, and he deliberately turned his back so that she could hug him. I'm sorry. Should I start over? Okay. So this is the really important part, that the guard deliberately looked at her and then turned his back so that she could hug her son. And she told us that she hoped that one day she would have the honor to be in the right place at the right time to make a real difference. So I believe that we at UU Cville are in the right place at the right time to help this hurting world. Charlottesville has become a focus of national attention for our struggles with racism, inequities, violence, and so many other injuries. And there is a growing energy for change. With our dedication to the worth and dignity of all people, our understanding that there are many truths, our commitment to social action, and most of all, our belief in the power of love and kindness, we are in a unique position to help with the healing. I believe that here and now, we are just what the world needs. My heart has always longed for the connection to a force bigger than myself. where I can be a part of doing something valuable in the world. I have found that here with you, with this congregation. We're making a difference to each other and to our community, and I believe that we can be even more powerful as we unite our energy and determination. I believe together we are a powerful force. So, I don't know exactly how we're going to come together in a common purpose or what words we're going to use to state our purpose, but that's why we need each other. Together, we are so much more wise than any of us alone. I'm eager for our conversations and to move forward together. I really love this congregation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim, for raising the microphone. I'll try and get it right. On the one hand, I would say that's a hard act to follow. Thank you, Pam. But on the other hand, the point of this is actually not to follow another person's act. The point of this is for each of us to bring our own unique and individual perspectives to answering the questions so that everybody in the community is represented through this endeavor. And so I love hearing Pam's perspective, and I'm inspired by it. And I really hope as you hear both of us, you are also inspired to dig deep and contemplate your own answers to these questions. So I actually answered all three, but I promise you it's all on one page, so very, very brief. But what does this congregation mean to you, or what brings you to UUCville? What initially brought me to UUCville was strong alignment between the UU principles and my personal values, and my desire for our family to grow in community with others were these, guided by these shared guiding principles. Another tenet of UU that appealed to me at a very fundamental level was the experience and invitation of faith as a journey of inquiry and discovery, rather than a position of dogma and certitude. So those were the reasons that brought me to UUCville, but 4 years later, the reason that I love being a part of this community and love this community is the people here, people who are sincerely striving to grow and live through our UU principles, our shared commitments and aspirations, and our diverse experiences and insights. Among this community, I feel like I'm growing to be a truer and more loving version of myself, and I see this in my wife and my children too. And finally, while I receive and benefit tremendously from being a part of this community, I love to serve too and believe I have something to offer. So there is some appeal in feeling like I can contribute to the journey and help others on their journeys too. So the second question is, how would you describe our purpose and the reason we exist? And simply put, I believe our purpose is to become more capable and more regular practitioners of the UU principles in our everyday lives, in relationship with ourselves, with self, in relationship with each other, in our families, in our schools, in our workplaces, in other elements of community, and in the Charlottesville community at large. And I think this happens through individual growth and communal growth. None of us can do it alone, but we can do it together. I also believe dialogue, sermons, stories like the porpoise one this morning, and rituals are necessary to cultivate this journey of growth. And I believe too that the UU principles manifest more in our actions than in words. So when I think of our purpose, I think mostly of our actions in our day-to-day lives as individuals and as a community. Then finally, the third question is, what is important to you about how we impact the larger community and the world? I've met very few people who haven't said, I want to change the world, and for the better. I think the only way to change the world is to change our world, to change my world. And this is a very hard thing to do because the comforts, the privileges, the perspectives, many of which we were born into, are familiar and seductive, even if they come at the expense of other people and are at odds with our UU principles. So to grow on purpose and have meaningful impact, I believe we need to spend more time outside of our comfort zones with people we instinctively view as other, and reach out with humility and inquiry. When we truly empathize with others through direct human contact, I think we will be more likely and more inspired to change our own world and consequently change the world for everyone for the better. Because it is so hard to do, I think we need and can be for each other a community of support and a community of accountability. Thank you.
Am I there? Yes. Okay, good deal. As the scent of popcorn wafts gently in the sanctuary. I keep telling Lori Craddock and David Shutt that I think they have a conspiracy going to completely throw off my sermon as I try to focus in all this heavenly abyss that popcorn puts me into. So I'll try to keep it together. Well, let me just begin by saying how much I appreciate and am grateful to Pam and Chris for sharing their thoughts and their passion and their love for this congregation and for Unitarian Universalism. We are so grateful for all that you are doing to help us live our values and our principles. And our future is so very bright because of leaders like you, and we have so much to look forward to. I also want to give a shout out to the other members, in addition to Pam and Chris, of the task force that is sort of overseeing and coordinating this journey that we're all making together. In addition to Chris and Pam, there's Janine Braithwaite, who is the co-chair along with Chris, Aksha Carrier, Brett Gastinger, and myself. We have been meeting very regularly for the last 6 weeks or so, and I have been so impressed with not just how well this team is working together. I mean, it's been happy time ever since we had our first Zoom meeting, but just how excited and hopeful all of them are for the future of our congregation. And let me just say that so much of what Pam and Chris shared resonates with my own journey and my own experience in Unitarian Universalism. Like Pam, I have always and still yearned to experience and feel that connection to something greater than myself. And I have certainly, time and again, found that connection in Unitarian Universalism. I have found it while worshiping and singing hymns on Sunday morning. I have found it while participating in deep and meaningful conversations like those one might experience in a covenant group or another faith development opportunity. I have certainly experienced that deep connection while engaging in acts of service and justice. And perhaps most importantly, as both Pam and Chris reiterated, I have been connected to something greater than myself through the extraordinary friendships and sense of community that I have been blessed to be part of as a Unitarian Universalist. And I have to say that for me, at the heart of that deep connection, at the heart of this faith tradition and this congregation, for me, is love. A love that is universal and unconditional. A love that is gentle and compassionate. A love that is joyful and fun. A love that welcomes and celebrates all people, and that transcends all that divides the human family into us and them, friend and enemy, saved and unsaved. I believe that the love at the heart of Unitarian Universalism does indeed save lives and can transform the world. And in my almost quarter century as a Unitarian Universalist, I have had the privilege of witnessing and experiencing that boundless love over and over again. Those experiences are often what I preach about on Sunday mornings. I have seen that love in the passion and commitment of a fellow church member many years ago when I myself was a lay member. This particular member volunteered every month without fail as part of the congregation's food ministry. And the reason he volunteered was because at one point in his life, he himself had experienced poverty and homelessness and felt that those who had reached out to him had saved his life and that he had an obligation and a responsibility to now help others. Another time, I witnessed that love during a Sunday morning UU service when a gay teenager who had been on the verge of suicide because of the bullying she had experienced in school, when she stood in the pulpit of a UU church and thanked the congregation from the bottom of her heart for providing her for a place where she was welcomed, accepted, and loved for who she is. And in that service, she told that congregation that they had saved her life. And I have watched that boundless and courageous love prevent a father and a child from being cruelly deported by the Trump administration when they were welcomed into sanctuary for over 2 years. Sanctuary that provided them time to appeal their case and eventually to win that case. I have so many more examples like that I could cite. But for me, that's what Unitarian Universalism is all about. That's Unitarian Universalism at its absolute best. And I feel so blessed to have had my life enriched and transformed and healed and made whole by this faith tradition. Now, I've only been here at the UU Congregation of Charlottesville for now, we're almost up to, I think, my 6-month anniversary. But let me tell you something. I have already witnessed and experienced that same love in this congregation. Now, UUCville has certainly had its share of struggles in the past, and you, like all religious communities, have had to navigate a terrible pandemic. But let me tell you something. I have been so inspired by how determined you are to move forward, how hungry you are to make a positive difference, and as Chris said so well, to live Unitarian Universalist principles and values. I believe the UU Congregation of Charlottesville is on the verge of something wonderful, something that will touch lives deepen spirit, and help begin healing a broken world. You guys are ready. You're on the verge. We just need to do some work together. And then I know that this congregation will become and will be, you already are, but we can do it even bigger. Become an island of love in a sea of turmoil. An island that is so loving, that is so compassionate, that those ripples of love begin to reach out beyond the walls, beyond the doors of this community, out into the community of Charlottesville, and out into the wider world. So I hope that you all will become part of that journey. I hope after the service concludes that you will go into the social hall and sign up for one of those cottage conversations. The tables, you can't miss them. There's the big banner. Our beautiful banner is right behind the tables, and there's cake and all kinds of delicious goodies there. So please do. The members of the committee will be there. The task force will be there to answer questions, to help you get signed up, and so on. There's so many different options. There's really no reason not to sign up. We've tried to make it as easy as possible. We need each and every one of you if the UU Congregation of Charlottesville is going to live into the fullness of who we are, of what Unitarian Universalism is calling us to be, and of how we can help bend the arc of the moral universe towards love and justice, not just for ourselves, but for the whole world. That's the work. That's the ministry we are being called to do. So I invite you to begin that journey today, together with all of us. Amen, and blessed be. So let's now rise in body or spirit, and let's join in singing.